what made you be like, okay, I'm gonna give comedy a shot? And was that here in Berlin?
It was here in Berlin. It was when my big Australian rock band split up and everyone went back to Australia. And then I was still in Berlin and I was like, I want to do something else. I just don't want to be in a fucking band anymore. And so that's when I started doing comedy. That band's, dude, speaking of bad gigs, man, can I tell you what?
Please. That's the point of the pod.
Dude, oh my God. Where were we? We were in Switzerland. And it was right towards the end of the, it was a 9-piece band, which is just a fucking social experiment.
Yeah. I feel like when people are like, we should try communism, be like, be a part of a 9-piece band for a month and then get back to me.
Yeah, fully, dude. Oh my God, absolutely, dude. And what's even worse is we were an alleged democracy. It was because there were 9 of us. And this is why democracy sucks too, though, is because there's 9 people making a decision, and it meant that every vote was always 5-4. So it meant
there's a real split in the band.
Yeah, you've got 4 people who are pissed about every single decision, Yeah. And I was the singer of the band. I never won a single vote. and I was I was trying to whip the votes too, I was like, all right, we've got Jono, we've
House
got
of Cards.
Yeah, yes. Trying to whip votes in a 9-piece band. I was like,
You're pulling the bassist aside and be like, listen,
yes.
I know that you normally vote with the drum section,
yes,
but I need you on this one.
Yes, dude, 100%. And me and whoever whoever would be agreeing with me would be me and the flute player. I'm like, all right, we've got Jono, we've got Trey. We just need one more,
Yeah. And then we just have to pull one over.
Yeah. And then we'd get to the vote, and then someone would cross the floor at the last minute. Oh, you motherfucker. So there was too much of that, there was too many personalities, and drugs and everything was a big problem. And we were in Switzerland, and we played this great show, but the guitarist, or keep it confidential, let's say the guitarist he just sort of started a phase where I don't think he was doing as many drugs anymore, so he was starting to drink more instead, and he wasn't a drinker. When people don't drink and then they drink and they're bad at it.
Yeah.
He was having this real vodka phase, and it was all
one of the saddest phases to have.
Yeah, vodka phase, just straight vodka, it really was the canary starting to cough in the mine. I was like, all right, might be time to pack it in.
Vodka is the alcohol that you drink in your car during the lunch break at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the one that is this is the one that gets sad.
Yeah, and you're not like drinking it with anyone. You know, everyone else is drinking beer, and you're like, and you went from like not drinking to like, you flicked a switch, and also when the guitarist is in a bad mood and drinking vodka in a rock band, like the guitar is a fairly important instrument. This is cool. I haven't said the name of the band, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, and also, from the history of my podcast, you don't have to worry about getting out.
Cool.
There will be maybe 13 people here in the Berlin comedy scene.
Yeah, great. So we're in Switzerland. We play this gig, and the gig goes well. But then after the show, the bass player and the guitarist get into some argument. They're like yelling at each other, and it's like in front of the audience, which is so awkward. You know what I mean? Because we've just had a great show, and everyone was like, "This is great," and like, so some of the band are at the merch table, and like we're selling merch, and like the vibe's good. We've just had a great show, and then they're like quite visibly and audibly upset at each other
on stage or off.
No, off stage, and it's sort of like just outside the venue, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good while after the show, actually. It's not straight after. And it doesn't matter what they're arguing about, but they're arguing, and then the bass player like shoves the guitarist, which was a bad thing to do, because the guitarist is like
drinking vodka by himself.
Yeah, he's like 90% through an entire bottle of vodka, and you've just shoved him. Like, this is going to end so poorly. So the guitarist falls over, and as he fell over, and his vodka bottle broke, right?
Which is also a real problem if you're drinking that bottle of vodka.
Yeah, but it's also a problem because what was once a bottle of vodka has become a weapon.
I did not think this is where the story was going.
And I'm sure he was never actually going to use it as a weapon. But when he stood back up after being, shoved on the ground, which is gonna piss you off if you're that, and he stood back up, and it sort of like occurred to him that he had a smash bottle and that he was pissed.
I have a weapon now.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, he never swung it, but he held it in a threatening manner. So the people of Switzerland did not respond well to this.
Really, the Swiss?
Yeah,
they didn't like confrontation.
They hate they hate street violence. So there's a real like.
Did they pick a side between the bassist and the guitarist?
There was So I'm in the middle of just going like, you guys are funny. He's joking. He's just joking.
This is one of his bits that he does.
Yeah, we're kind of like that. But this is an Australian thing. Yeah, this is culture, everyone. Relax. Relax. We're being cultural. So eventually, he put the bottle down. But then but it was too late. So then the venue, come over to us, and they're like, you all need to leave like right now, right? And we're like, all our music equipment is still on stage. Like, we haven't even like turned the amps off, because that's what we would do. We would finish the show and be like, we'll deal with that later, So we would like, we'll be like packing up our music equipment while we're like fucking shit-faced. Like, we'd be doing this to like to roll leads. So we were like, we haven't packed any of our stuff up, and they were like, we don't care. Come back in the morning and get it. Like, it's like, we can't have this. We're like, that's fair enough. So we came back the next day. I can't even remember how the rest of the night went too. I sort of like just like trauma drank at that point. And then we drove back to the accommodation. We had a driver. We had like, we weren't like that's it. We had like a tour manager driver guy. And he drove back to the accommodation, and just as he got in, the roof was just a little bit low, and we like, scraped like our whole roof off the fucking thing. It was like the whole next day, we had like a bike rack sort of thing on top of our van for strapping stuff. So that all came loose. So the next morning, it was just about like bolting on this thing back on before we could even get to the venue and get all like we had to do like 3 hours of like screws and bolts and shit while the guitarist is just sitting there hungover and fucking a bit ashamed, let's say. And little did we know, when he fell over, when he was pushed, he broke his hand in like a million places. Like, he was out of action. It was the last gig. I think it was the last gig the band played, because his hand was completely fucked. He had to get like micro surgery on all this sort of shit so he could like play again, but he was like, that was the end of the band.
Oh shit. That's actually what an epic bad gig story. You're like, there was a gig so bad that was the last show we ever did. It killed the band. We never went back to Switzerland. They were not so neutral. They hated us. And it was such a shame, because the first time we were in Switzerland they loved us, and the second time was like a bit of a victory lap. We had more people than the first time. Everyone was like pumped to see us. They all knew the words to the songs and stuff. And also I imagine as an artist, you're like, holy shit, this is how it all starts. Like, we're fucking, here we go. Yeah, that band was like, we were on the absolute brink of doing something good, and then like just absolutely fucked it. Maybe this is an interesting question also, of like, so what do you think is the difference between, that is like a bad gig because it's just like, that isn't even really the gig in a way. It's just like it's the perils of being in a 9-piece. Yeah, it's symptomatic. 9-piece band. Yeah. But like, what do you think makes? Because obviously, I'm intimately aware of the sensation of bombing in comedy. Yeah. Is there an equivalent of bombing in music? Like, no. There isn't. Bombing in comedy is very unique, and there's nothing like it at all. There is no music equivalent, because in a music setting, if you're in a band, it's so easy to blame someone else. Even if you made all the mistakes, you'd be like, yeah, but if the drummer is doing this or something, or whatever, or even if you're playing solo in music, you always have the sound engineer to blame. The sound engineer gets blamed for everything. Like, when a band gig doesn't go well,
it's always the sound guy's fault. Because fold back, what you hear from the speakers on the ground really kind of like makes or breaks a musician's performance. Whether they can hear their own voice, whether they can hear their own keyboard coming back at them, so like if you do a bad show in a gig, you'd be like, the fallback was fucked, it's like...
Because like... And could you know that the fallback is fucked? Because is it happen where you're like, it's sounding good to you, but like nothing much is happening out there, and then you're like, so something must be fucked because it sounds good here.
Yeah,
why?
This is a sentence you'll hear after every gig ever. In soundcheck, the fallback was great, and then during the gig, I couldn't hear anything. It's like because in soundcheck, the drummer is playing at a normal volume, and the guitarist and bass player haven't turned up their amps. Like that's the thing all amp players do when the show starts and there's a crowd there and they're feeling like.
Yeah. Yeah, is there also then is there a sound competitiveness where you're like, I want the band to sound good, but also I want people to hear the bass.
Yes,
I'm the bass player, and they should. Mm-hmm. The guitar's a little loud, so I'm just gonna turn myself so that
and then the guitarist turns up, so then the bass player's like, oh yeah, and then they turn up. Like you'll see like an amp like at soundcheck that out of like it'll be on 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
and then by the end of the gig they're both on 10.
Yeah,
and I'm like, so yeah, of course we couldn't hear each other. You guys are like, and then they're like, what's all that feedback coming from? It's like your guitar is twice the volume as the soundcheck. Yeah. Dude, that guitarist, man, he would have like this big, huge guitar amp that he would have loud, and then the sound engineer would be like, so what do people want in their foldback? And he'd be like, can I have like a lot of guitar in the foldback? I'm like, oh yeah, you need a guitar coming from behind you and up here and everywhere. And he's like, yeah, put it in their foldback too. Just guitar, give everyone guitar.
Just make sure everybody hears a lot of guitar.
Yeah. For my fallback, when people are like, what would you like? I'm like, I would like my voice and nothing else.
Yeah.
I'll hear them. Yeah, don't worry. Like, do you want any drums? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, I'll hear the drums.
I feel the drum.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, do you want a bit of your keyboard? And I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. Give me a bit of me. Yeah. But no, just give me as much of my voice as you can. It's a survival setting, when you're in a rock thing and you've just got this tiny little shitty old speaker that's just for you and no one else. It's just about what do you need to survive a loud, chaotic mess.
The show must go on, even if the show goes wrong. The show